Dead Man's Wire is a true story that I was not familiar with. In the 70s, a man named Tony Karitsis felt that he had been screwed over in some business dealings, and so he took the president of this loan company hostage. He tied a wire around his neck, and it was attached to a shotgun that he was holding right behind him. So if he fell over, if they were jostled in any way at all, any interference, the shotgun is gonna go off. So the police really can't do anything. He's able to take this man hostage at his place of business, walk him out to the car, drive back to his apartment, where he takes him hostage for several days. This is an interesting story. Like I said, I didn't know about it. There was a documentary a few years ago, which is actually free to watch on YouTube. Bill Skarsgård plays Tony, and this is a great role for him because this guy is very angry. He's over the top, but intentionally so, because this character has been pushed to his limits. He is not mentally stable, as you can tell just by the fact that he is doing this. At first, I was a little distracted by the voice and the accent he was doing, and just how intense he was from the get-go. But then, as the movie goes along and you realize, like, just how unstable the guy really is, it's like, okay, yeah, that's fitting. He has these weird tics. He's always saying stuff like baby. He's calling people baby all the time. And I looked up some of the footage of the actual guy, and that's what he was like. He just did that. And Decray Montgomery is the guy who gets taken hostage. I didn't fully recognize him at first. I knew he was playing the role, so I knew it was him, but the bottom half of his face looks like him. But what they do with his hair, honestly, like, if I didn't know it was him, it would have taken me a minute to recognize him, but he's really good here too. But speaking of not recognizing, Cary Elwes is in this movie, and I didn't know that. And I don't mean I didn't know it going in, I mean I didn't even know it by the time I finished the movie. They were showing some footage of the real incident during the credits, so I stuck around, and in the credits it said Cary Elwes. And I was like, what do you mean? I just watched the movie. He was not in it. So I had to look it up and find out which character he was playing, and sure enough, yeah, that was him. I felt crazy. But he had brown hair, it was kind of long, he had a bunch of facial hair. I didn't recognize him at all. I had no idea it was him. He completely disappeared. And Al Pacino plays Decray Montgomery's dad, the guy that Tony actually really has a grudge with. Mainly, he just wants an apology from him. He wants him to own up to what he did. He wants his story to be heard. He wants people to know what kind of business they're running. And Al Pacino doesn't really have to do much. I'm not sure if he stands up at any point in the movie. He kind of just gets to sit back and talk on the phone, but he can do that, and he can be an asshole, and that's all he has to do here. And it's well done, like shedding light on these relationships just through the dialogue, finding out how strongly Tony feels about what was done to him, seeing the kind of relationship that the father and son businessmen have with each other just by the way the father talks about the situation. You see how rabid the journalists are in their attempts to report this and spin it in their own ways. You got a radio host played by Coleman Domingo that forms this kind of connection with Skarsgård's character because he's the only one that he actually wants to talk to, just because he's a fan of his. He's really good as well. He does a great job as a radio host. His voice is very fitting. It's an interesting story, and you can't really root for the guy. It's like, okay, this is crossing a major line. This is fucked up. He's not stable. But also, what am I going to defend? The corporation? Like, fuck them. I don't know if this movie is the best way to experience the story. I haven't watched the documentary. Maybe you could check that out. Maybe you could just research into it on your own. I don't think this is like a phenomenal film. It's not one that I would revisit. But if you just want to learn the story, I think it's done pretty well here. Performances are good. But I do think it drags in the middle a bit when they're just hostage in his apartment. I don't know how much of that is fictionalized, like the conversations that they had with each other, or like a dream sequence that Decray Montgomery's character experiences. Some of that is kind of spinning its wheels, leading towards a conclusion that I didn't know what was going to happen because I was unfamiliar with the story. I genuinely was not sure, but leading to what we know has to be a conclusion. It felt like it was dragging a little bit getting there. There were also some stylistic choices that were kind of confusing to me. Sometimes you see the perspective of the news cameras, that's totally fine. But then sometimes you get just like weird freeze frames. And sometimes those freeze frames are in black and white, and sometimes they're not. And sometimes that seems to be framed as if they're pictures being taken. But oftentimes that's not the case. It's just like a random shots from the movie, and then the screen stops moving for a few seconds. It just freezes. And also sometimes is black and white. And those choices were just kind of distracting. So those are the kind of things you might expect to see more in a documentary, and you should be trying to separate yourself from that. This is directed by Gus Van Sant. I think he mostly handled it really well with the intensity of the situation. It was just a few of those choices that I thought were not really necessary. But overall, I was engaged with the story. I wanted to find out how it was going to end, and it was just interesting seeing how this one man can be pushed to such an extreme, and how bizarre of a story it must have been to experience in the 70s in Indianapolis. Like, oh, it's Wednesday. Is that one guy still holding a shotgun to that other guy's neck in his apartment for the third day in a row? Yeah, that's still happening. It's pretty crazy. So I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. It was pretty solid, and I do recommend checking it out at some point if it interests you, if you want to learn the story. If you already know all about the story, you probably kind of got it covered, but it's represented, as far as I can tell, pretty well here, and I do think it's a pretty decent movie. But leave your thoughts in the comments, because this was all just my opinion. Did you really like the performances? Did you get into the story? Are there things that they left out if you happen to be more familiar? Anything you want to talk about, we can do it in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more.